So there's this common misconception that we tend to throw around quite loosely, right? And I'm guilty of this as well. I probably said this in my previous videos, quite a few of them, in which I've said sometimes we are our own worst enemies, right? I'm sure this is something you guys hear quite a bit because it is often regurgitated in the self improvement community, right? But recently I began to truly realize just how untrue this statement is, even though it sounds factual logically, it is quite untrue. And not only is it untrue, but when it isn't truly understood and broken down, it can be a bit dangerous for those who are on their healing journey or self improvement journey or self love journey, right? It can be a bit dangerous. Now, in this video, I wanted to debunk the myth of why this statement, even though it sounds logically, is quite untrue, and the dangers of actually believing that you are your worst enemy. Now, when it comes on to life, everything that we do is for our highest good, right? Bear with me. Everything that we do is to truly protect ourselves, or everything that we do is done with the intention of protecting ourselves. Now, this doesn't mean that our actions will sort of be aligned with what is always best for us, right? Or this doesn't mean that our actions will sort of be aligned with what is necessary for us. But when it comes on to the intention behind what we do, why we do the things we do, it is always, in a sense, done with our best interests. Now, when it comes on to life, because a lot of us have been through certain situations and experiences, or let's say we grew up a particular way, our bodies are always programmed, or our minds are always programmed to always look out for our safety, right? So whenever we find ourselves in positions and situations that require us to go outside of that comfort zone, that require us to do things that are necessary for us to grow, we find ourselves in this position in which we feel as if it is hard to break out of that programming and to take action that is in our highest good, right? But this is not the same thing as you being your worst enemy. It's just so that your body has mistaken comfort for safety. Your mind has misplaced or misconstrued comfort for safety. So whenever you're going to do something that you've never done before or is outside of your comfort zone, your body defaults to going back into that position of protecting yourself, right? Now, from my own personal life, this is just an example. I have no issues seeing a woman that I find attractive in person and approaching her, right? But something that I realize with my own self is that whenever I'm in public and there's a lot of people around me in general, I find it hard to go ahead and approach that woman if there are people around me. And it's because my body is trying to protect me from embarrassment, or from the possibility of being embarrassed, right? Or even when it comes on to speaking up in public, something that I always struggled with was going ahead and speaking up, i- you know, because I want to speak up, but I would always sort of deter myself from speaking up because of the possibility that I might say something embarrassing or embarrass myself in public, right? You get what I'm saying? So it is not so much that our worst enemies. It's more so that our bodies and our minds are conditioned to default to old programmings in order to protect us. Our bodies and our minds are programmed to default to safety in order to protect us, right? So, in a sense, we are never truly our worst enemies. We are always our greatest allies. But it's just so happened that our bodies are conditioned to use outdated software, outdated methods in order to protect us, right? A person might find themselves in a good situationship, a good relationship, so on and so forth, that is healthy, but they might sabotage it because they have this fear that they might get hurt again, or their bodies are in this state in which, since they are so afraid of being hurt again, they default to sabotaging themselves, even though they find themselves in a healthy situation, right? The same thing comes, the same thing holds true for overthinking. Whenever you overthink, whenever you overanalyze, it is because you're afraid of making mistake. It is because your body is afraid of failure, so it defaults to not making a decision per se because of that fear of failure or that fear of embarrassment, if I'm making sense, right? And the same holds true for, you know, taking a certain action, starting something new, right? It is that fear of failure, right? Procrastination. It is the fear of making a mistake or taking the wrong decision, right? So whenever it is that we find ourselves in the state in which we feel as if we are our worst enemies, it is not so much that we are our worst enemies, but more so our bodies and our minds are always seeking comfort in order to protect us. That's truthfully all it is, right? Our bodies are seeking comfort rather than venturing into the unknown, because the unknown to us or to our conditioned mind always represents some degree of danger, right? Some degree of unpredictability. And so comfort to our bodies and to our minds, you know, always seem like the safe option. Now the reason why I made this video, or I'm making this video, in order for you to truly understand the mechanics of what is taking place, and to not go around thinking you are your worst enemy, is because when it comes on to life, when it comes on to healing, when it comes on to growth, when it comes on to change, change must take place with a certain degree of understanding, right? You won't grow constantly fighting against yourself. You won't grow by thinking you are your worst enemy, right? Growth and change and healing can only take place through understanding. By understanding why you do the things you do, by understanding the deeper mechanics behind why you do the things you do, right? By giving yourself compassion, by giving yourself empathy, by giving yourself love while changing. That is very important when it comes down to change. If you're changing and you're approaching change with the idea that you are your greatest enemy, you're going to constantly find yourself fighting against yourself, right? And you're never truly going to heal, you're never truly going to change, you're never truly going to grow. A huge part of any sort of change is understanding. And with that understanding comes compassion. With understanding comes, empathy towards yourself, right? But it can be a very dangerous thing if you believe that you are your worst enemy. You're never your worst enemy, right? Even certain actions that we might take that we might think, oh, damn, why did I do that? It still has to do with your body or your conditioned mind trying to protect you, right? It might not be or seem logical. You would believe that a person who wants to succeed would, have the urge to go out there into the unknown and take action, right? A person who wants a healthy relationship would not leave a person who's healthy for them. But at the end of the day, our unconscious or subconscious programs are very often sort of, to a large extent, a lot more powerful than we want consciously, right? But when it comes on to change, you have to give yourself compassion. You have to give yourself empathy to understand that it takes time to change. It takes time to heal for the most part. It takes time to grow. And while you're in that process, you have to understand that, or you're constantly going to fight against yourself, right? Like whenever I find myself in the state in which I'm overthinking and overanalyzing or procrastinating or holding myself back from going towards something that I desire, I usually just pause, I take a moment, I breathe in, I reflect, and I ask myself, why am I holding myself back? What is the reason why I'm holding myself back, right? What is it? What belief is there, right? What is my body trying to protect me from, right? And once you begin to truly ask yourself these questions and bring awareness to what is taking place, then you begin to sort of get into this place in which you sort of begin to understand yourself more, right? So let's say you find yourself procrastinating, find yourself overthinking. You begin to ask yourself, why am I overthinking this? And if you always ask yourself the right questions, you will always get the right answers, right? I'm probably overthinking because I'm afraid of messing up. I'm afraid of failing. But if I continue to overthink, then I'm not going to make that decision. I'm not going to make that choice. And is failing, quote unquote, failing any worse than not doing anything at all? When I make a decision, there's probably a 50% chance that I'm going to succeed. Let's just say that. And a 50% chance that I'm going to fail. So I still have a 50% chance. But if I don't take any sort of action, there's a 100% chance that I fail. So which one is better? Taking action and giving yourself a shot, or not taking any action at all? Which one is better, right? You get to the root of why you do the things you do. You get to the root of why you have certain habits and certain thought patterns, right? You get to the root of it all. And once you get to the root of it all, you begin to understand yourself. And in that moment, you begin to give yourself compassion, empathy, love while changing. Because you realize that your body is always trying to protect you. Yourself is always trying to protect you. You just have to show it the right way, right? Or you have to tell it that it is okay. You're not going to be harmed. It is okay to make that decision. It is okay to take that chance. It is okay to approach that girl. It is okay to dive right in. There's nothing to be afraid of. You have to give yourself that reassurance. You have to give yourself that level of validation and understanding to know that there is truthfully nothing to be afraid of. But in my own life or from my own personal experience, the more I began to give myself compassion, grace, patience, understanding, love, right, while changing, the more I began to see a greater sense of change within myself, right? So you won't never truly change by thinking you are your worst enemy. You are never your worst enemy. Your body is always trying to protect you. Your body is always trying to keep you safe. It's more so that it doesn't understand the right way to go about it, or it misconstrues comfort for safety, right? So understanding that, bringing awareness to that, to give yourself compassion and love while changing is how you're going to see a lot more change, healing, and growth within your life, right? So yeah, I just wanted to make this quick video for those of you who truly have this idea that you're your worst enemy and you beat yourself up, you fight against yourself, you're constantly in battle with yourself, you're constantly demean yourself, right? You have to understand that everything that you do is with the intention of protecting you, right? But safety, or what we deem to be safety, is oftentimes not the way to go. And you have to train your body, train your mind to know that you are okay to step out of the comfort or to step out of the known and venture into the unknown. So thank you guys for watching. Take care of yourselves. I gotta run. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace and blessings.